So J. Cole just released The Off-Season. It's his 6th album, and there's been so much hype behind it, and the community seems to be loving the album, and there's a lot of things that people maybe have missed from the album, so we're actually going to take you guys through everything you might have missed from The Off-Season, and if we forget anything, let us know in the comments what you might have missed, because there's actually a lot that went into this album, and people are seeing it as him kind of just showcasing his skills, but it's kind of a lot deeper than that, right?
It is. And guys, let us know in the comments how you guys actually like the album and the reception with it. We always go through them and we answer your guys' questions, even your takes and everything. So yes, the reception has been cool. It's different because it gave me more of a mixtape vibe, and then after that he called it a commercial album. But I mean, we had spoken about that, and it's basically just, it's a way to wrap it up nicer, right? But it does have that classic J. Cole mixtape vibes, and this is cool because now we're transitioning into a new era of J. Cole, and this is actually the start to something bigger. So the off-season is actually just a big preparation for the fall-off that is going to be coming in God knows how long. So take us through that.
Yeah, and we actually started off by seeing, the first word of the off-season in 2018 on the Album of the Year freestyle video, where the first visual is what you're about to witness is a masterclass in preparation, the off-season. So right after that, we're like, okay, he announced the fall off on KOD on 1985, so what's the off-season? And then we got a checklist in 2020 where we saw the off-season, It's a Boy, and the fall off listed. So that made us think that, like, okay, whatever comes between the off-season and the fall off, it's kind of just leading up to the fall off, because that was always kind of hyped as the main event. So that kind of gave us an idea that the off-season was kind of just a prelude to the fall-off, just the same way that Friday Nights, for example, was a prelude to his debut album, The Sideline Story.
And there's also a lot of information, not only in the documentary, but in the album itself, of him kind of saying, like, listen, you guys are expecting this, wait till I actually, fall off, and then you guys are going to miss me. I think it was on My Life where he had mentioned, I'm going to sell out Wrigley's, like, once you guys, like, stop getting my music and you guys are going to miss me. So it was kind of like, be prepared, because this is probably the best material I'm going to give you guys in years, and you guys are going to enjoy it.
And back to what you were saying before, it feels like a mixtape because it's the first time we have, features on a J. Cole project since Born Sinner. And, all of his mixtapes, of course, have had features. But not only that, but you do feel like, his rapping ability is kind of what shines out the most. And that's something that he always did on the warm-up, on FNL as well, where he's trying to just make that lyrical ability shine. And that's kind of what he does. And I just feel like it's the perfect way to get people even more excited for the fall off.
Not only that, but I mean, if you look at the whole checklist, there's the It's a Boy in the middle. And that has been confirmed on KD's podcast that will be a project. So who knows what he's going to bring? Is it going to be another album? Is it going to be a mixtape or packaged as a mixtape? We don't know, but all we do know is that this was major preparation towards the fall off. And talking about that, just, one more question I got to ask you, was this the perfect entrance for you into J. Cole's grand finishing?
It definitely was, because I feel like, he's testing the waters with this mixtape to have, his craft mastered for the fall off, because we saw him kind of trying out different styles. He was rapping on some trap beats, for examples. He was also, having that duality of rapping and singing on songs like Pride is the Devil. So he was kind of testing out different sounds, and I feel like he's doing that just to be perfect when the fall off comes out and to have that craft mastered.
Yeah, his craft is definitely getting mastered at this point, and you heard it throughout the track list. I mean, it sounded super focused, and it was definitely diverse than anything we had ever gotten on a J. Cole project. But let's actually move on to another point, was the whole altercation with Diddy. So if you guys don't know where this stemmed from, it was a 2013 party after the VMAs, and basically back in 2013 there was the whole controversy of Kendrick Lamar's Control verse, and basically Diddy tried to check Kendrick because of that verse, and everything that he had said about New York, and that whole thing going on, and J. Cole stepped in, and they apparently got into a fight.
Apparently he was about to pour a drink on Kendrick. J. Cole saw it like from a bit far away, and then he stepped in. And, there was rumors after that a scrap happened and J. Cole was kicked out of the party. Another rumor was also that J. Cole was dancing too close to Diddy's girlfriend at the time named Cassie. Regardless, after that night, they went on Twitter and kind of denied that anything happened and said the rumors were bullshit. But yet on this song, one of the bars on Let Go My Hand is, my last scrap was with Puff Daddy, who would have thought it?
And actually,
so that's kind of him confirming it,
No, it is, definitely. And it was low-key confirmed before. And I mean, I'm not sure if it was Punch that came out on Twitter and said, the infamous Diddy beef, and not Diddy beef, Diddy scrap, but Diddy actually does have vocals on this project. So that's pretty cool to see.
It is cool to see, yeah. It was unexpected.
It was unexpected. And just a little context of where that bar lays within the project. I mean, it was him kind of going through him not feeling sort of comfortable in his environment. Like he always said, like, you know, I was never that guy to be hard or have a hard front. Like I never gangbanged, I never did any of that. And it was kind of like every time he got into an altercation, it would be people trying to test him and, you know, kind of show off that, like, okay, maybe you're not as tough as you seem. So it was cool to see how he used that story to reference back that emotion in the actual story. But you could gain all kinds of stuff out of this project like that. I mean, a cool part about this well, album, I'll call it, is you could go through the album and you'll see that he uses personal anecdotes to relate back to his emotions. And that's what I like about it, is that it gives you introspection, but it's deeper than the actual story itself. There's actual guidance between it. So that's what I appreciated out of it.
And this perfectly ties into the next point, which is that J. Cole is truly a middle child of hip hop. And the biggest reason for this is because, you know, of course, on 1985, he kind of took that Godfather role where he's looking out for artists, for their financial game, for, you know, just them not wanting to, you know, release music that, let's say, doesn't have substance, and him kind of just looking out for that new generation of rappers.
Yeah.
Then he releases Middle Child in 2019, where he talks about, like, okay, no, I'm not a veteran just yet. I'm kind of still in the middle because I mirrored my style and my cadences after the OGs, but I do, you know, relate to these younger artists because I was, you know, I was their age at one point.
And I was actually having a conversation with Coleman, and he had produced the first track off of the off season about this, and I was telling him that the album sort of felt placed in a way where you got the old sort of substance from J. Cole, because obviously, you know, you had the Cameron appearance, and then after that you also had the little John vocals that were laid on the first track,
which was sampled, yeah,
absolutely. And then after that you had gotten the feature from Lil Baby, Morray, and 21 Savage, which, you know, kind of was like, how do you fit those features and make them sound coherent on the same project? But it was cool because J. Cole knew that he had to cater to two different types of fan bases. The people that, you know, like him more for his, I would say, lyrical substance, for the older style of hip-hop. I would say more for his jazz beats and more of his soul samples. And then there's the other people that like him for his melodic stuff, like, let's say, Middle Child. So it was cool to see how he was able to split that duality within the project.
Yeah, it was super interesting. I mean, Cameron, like you said, is on the intro. Then you get, you know, Diddy giving us kind of a prayer, asking for God to guide him, and, you know, trying to, you know, asking for that, let's say, guidance to be a better father on Let Go My Hand. So you got those two, you could say, kind of features on the album. And then, like you said, the bigger features were definitely 21 Savage, Lil Baby, and Morray, which are part of that new generation. So it's interesting to see that, you know, Cole's at a point in his career where he really wants to showcase the people that he fucks with that are still in the come up. And we also got, you know, appearances from Baz and Black, which were interesting to see. But it just goes to show that, you know, like you said, Cole, you know, his audience is getting bigger, and this was the perfect way for him to kind of, you know, please the older generation and the newer generation. So it was awesome to see.
Do you think more artists should jump into that bag and try to, you know, incorporate features that way? Because I feel as if now going into a project in 2021, the feature list is extremely one-sided towards one style, I would say, of hip-hop, rather than, you know, trying to diversify your feature list. So you think that's something that artists should approach with now in projects?
Not really, to be honest with you. I just feel like it comes down to the actual music. Like, if you can make a quality song with someone, then fucking do it. In J. Cole's instance, for example, I did want to see him, you know, kind of work with people that would challenge him lyrically. That's something that I was missing on the album. But nonetheless, I mean, him and 21 Savage are pretty much, you know, a crazy duo at this point. They have this weird chemistry where they sound, you know, like polar opposites, but they make it work. But I would have liked to have seen someone like Royce the 5'9" or Busta Rhymes, who actually, you know, shouted out Cole and posted the off-season album art when it came out. So he has that respect from the newer guys and also from the veterans. So it's awesome to see.
It's great because he's respected in you know, the whole industry, and his music will be timeless. But let's actually go into the purpose, I would say, of the off season, because the purpose is, you know, you could sort of interpret this in many different ways. You could say, like, okay,
give me your interpretation, I'll give you mine.
Okay, so I would start like this. I feel as if it's a point in J. Cole's career where he had something to prove, where he wanted to come in with this sort of cadence where he's telling everyone, like, yes, okay, you guys might have had something on me on my last project. So as we were talking about the unnecessary gripes with KOD, or let's say For Your Eyes Only 2014, like, there's always these unnecessary gripes with J. Cole projects that come from the community, just because I don't think people could sort of accept how good of a rapper he is, if that makes sense to you. So on this, it was like leaving no room for nothing. And yes, people did. I saw unnecessary gripes with, oh, this is a 7 out of 10, or oh, this is that. it literally never makes sense when it comes to J. Cole gripes, because his music is calculated to a touch. I mean, if people understood the type of intricate writing that goes into a J. Cole project, the type of production choices, the sentiment, the moods, and how long it probably takes to engineer and master a project like this, the track sequencing, it's a fucking quality project.
Years in the making, right?
Not only that, but I mean, he wants to present this to his fan base. The guy knows he has probably 2 other projects left. It's A Boy and then The Fall Off. So why not introduce something that ties in all of those mixtapes together and not only captures a new fan base, but brings in that nostalgic feeling of okay, this is a follow-up to the Sideline story, and to that mixtape. So that's how I kind of received it. And then obviously there's a lot of talk about religious and spiritual guidance. There's a lot of stuff about being a mogul and understanding that these unnecessary energies on your life don't really have a stand on you. Also about keeping your composure and being cool, about maybe letting life take its course and, taking in different events so you could write your picture and you could go further with it. So that's my detailed explanation, but how about you? What would you
I kind of saw more of a deeper approach in the sense that, like, people were, and this is myself included, were kind of surprised when he released the Interlude as the single. But the deeper I looked into it, I'm like, okay, he talks about how there's, this album's going to be the highest of highs and the lowest of lows, and how things can either go up or down. So that got me thinking, and then I thought about, what he was rapping about on that song, and he gives you 2 perspectives. He gives you him kind of boasting about his album sales and his position in the game, and the other side of that is, him talking about gun violence and street life and how, devastating it is and how he's managed to stay away from it. And those 2 same perspectives are present on every single song on the album.
That is true.
Not only that, but if you look at the first intro, the intro track, 95 South, that's about him going from North Carolina to New York. And that's kind of him breaking away from, that kind of street life and that violent lifestyle to go and make something out of himself. And on the song Amari, he even raps about, like, I made it out, it's got to mean something. And that's kind of, the sentiment that I got from the project is that he's saying how it could have been so easy for him to kind of be sucked into by his influences and, go into that gang life. Like, we saw in For Your Eyes Only 2 where, his friend James fell into that life, but he had the willpower to kind of strive for something bigger. And then we get Hunger on Hillside where he's finally landed in New York. And that's kind of him saying, like, I made it out. And, the whole album is kind of him traveling, let's say, from North Carolina to New York and him kind of battling 2 different things. Either do I become a product of my environment or do I become a leader in my community?
That is
and
true.
And he chose the second one.
That's a genius analysis, because even going back to that thing we were talking about, him being a product of his environment, it's not necessarily also the gun violence, but maybe also of the industry and everything that comes with it as well. Because, there's some bars, I have to reference this back at some point, but there were some bars on the project about him talking about how toxic the industry is and how it could suck you in and how, he has to duck evil and sort of stay on his grind and stay focused. Because throughout all of J. Cole's career, I mean, I could just imagine, all of the types of lucrative, I would say, scenarios he's been in and how he's kind of had to dodge that because of how, I would say focused he's had to be while creating these masterpieces and these great projects. Another thing that I like is I'm going to reference back an old Angie Martinez interview where he's talking about, him and his drinking. This was cool too because, I was able to connect the dots with this, and the project was not necessarily him stopping to drink, but where he's at in his life. Because in the Angie Martinez video interview, he was talking about how he gave up drinking because he felt the pull and he felt as if he was a slave to his own environment.
Exactly.
And I could see how that real life experience for him transpired here. Now he's talking about that in the album maybe 2 years later. I'm not sure when that Angie Martinez
came out in 2018. It was part of the KOD rollout. So
3 years later, you could see how those types of emotions are transpiring into this. And I also like the whole duality of him being a rapper and a father. I mean, that's something that we saw Logic bring in on No Pressure back in 2020, and to see J. Cole sort of pick up on that vibe and to go with his own variation. And
I feel like that's
genius.
That's what It's a Boy is probably going to be, is him talking about his experiences in deeper detail about being a father and kind of where that leaves him and kind of the morals and the values that he wants to teach his sons. And that would be really interesting to see, because Let Go My Hand was one of my favorite songs, if not my favorite, off the album.
Yeah.
And, speaking about that track and kind of almost every single song on this album, a sentiment is that J. Cole is kind of aware of a higher power on this album, and he's referenced God throughout, almost every single one of his projects. But this one is very prevalent because it's on almost every single song. So where do you think he stands on religion, let's say, and kind of a higher power?
I would say it serves more into his music and trying to spread a positive message. I don't think he promotes any religion.
Specifically he doesn't.
No, specifically he doesn't. But just what it means to him is pretty cool because it's sort of a guiding role in his life, and I can relate to that because it is in mine as well. And just him, it's kind of more intricate because he doesn't necessarily talk about biblical references or he doesn't dive into anything else. But I mean, what's cool about it is he sort of puts you into his perspective, talking about different energies in his life, talking about how, there's certain evils in the devil that could, grab on you. And I also like references about, how he's in a middle point in his life. Either like he could have given into those devils and could have given into that evil, whatever the interpretation is, or go into something that's maybe served him more into his life, like God and being one with him. So that was something that was prominent because throughout all of the braggadocious bars or him talking about, how he's on top in his album sales, there was that grounding to the album. There was that sort of feeling that J. Cole knew where his place was in this life. And yes, I feel as if he understands that he's this mogul and this rapper, but J. Cole also sees himself as a person and a human being, besides the whole J. Cole aura that he has around him. So that's kind of how I interpreted it.
The way that I saw it too was of course he talks about one of the deadly sins in Christianity, which is pride. On pride is the devil. And that was cool to see because he talks about how it can kind of rip apart families and how it turns people, into having these, let's say, self-inflated egos where they can't even admit their own wrongs. And there's an issue in that. Not only that, but we also get two prayers on this album. We get Diddy on the end of Let Go My Hand. Then we get Baz on the outro, Hunger on Hillside, where he's saying let God lead you pretty much. And that was interesting to see. Not only that, but on the song Close, J. Cole raps about, having a close friend that kind of got sucked up into, the wrong influences, into that gang life. And he says, in some words that, having that belief in a higher power, not necessarily any specific God, but knowing that there's something higher and something, to believe in and to kind of, I wouldn't say be a slave to, but more than that, kind of just know that you're beneath someone, that you'll never be at the top of any mountain, let's say. Knowing that there's that higher power out there led him to make certain decisions and to try to spread some good in the world, I would say.
Yeah, whatever that power or that energy is, I mean, it's always up for interpretation, and I mean, that's the whole basis of religion. But I mean, what's cool about J. Cole is that he puts it in a way where it's, it's being able to consume by millions. I mean, think about how many different people and different cultures and, let's say, different religions are going to be listening to this album. I mean, it's completely different. J. Cole has such a wide fan base with so many different people in it. So, I mean, it's cool to see how he was able to generalize that and sort of put it into an aspect of everyone's life, because I also feel as if there was that guidance from a higher power throughout this whole project. I mean, if you look at maybe the fluidity of the project and how it felt very loose. It felt very like you were going through it and it felt like an enjoyable listen. And I think that was prominent within J. Cole's process, and he kind of not wanted to give credit to, him being able to connect to that higher power while making the project, but, maybe saying this is actually, something that a lot of people have to consider into their everyday lives, because think about the types of influences we have on each other right now in society and how many, not, let's say, bad things, but things that could, bring down the pride, bring us down, and it could cause that pride. I mean, it's extremely delicate, and at any single point in your daily routine, there are these things that could bring you down. So that's what I enjoyed about it. It was more of a cautionary tale more than anything.
True,
and him showing that.
A big thing is also him talking about kind of, avoiding these temptations. And that goes back to what I kind of interpret as the purpose of the album, is him having to avoid these temptations, let's say, to make a quick buck or to, be cool amongst his friends. I feel as if to reach that level of success.
Absolutely. But I feel as if that's low-key a message on every single one of J. Cole's albums. I mean, go back to KOD and think about how he was trying to do that for the youth and stay away from that.
That message is being carried on, which is really interesting.
And not only that, but go back to For Your Eyes Only and how he used his friend as a parallel to promote that message. I mean, there's so much introspection within J. Cole's projects. It's so hard to, I would say, dissect. But once you really understand and listen to the album with clarity, you get this beautiful underlying message that's like, whoa, you know, I just got so much game for my Apple Music or Spotify payment.
Yeah.
And that's what I like about it, is that, you know, it's almost like reading your favorite author. I mean, you could think about music now as, you know, introspection. You could think about it as knowledge. You could think about it as that, because it is. It's J. Cole, who has gone through so many of these events, giving his game, giving his knowledge, and giving his power to his fans. Thank you guys for watching the whole video. Hit that subscribe button to join the family. We're doing weekly reviews. We're giving you guys all the updates in the industry. Plus, we have our series called What to Expect, where we actually take you through the album before it drops. Plus, if you guys want to chat with us, you guys could join our Discord server. The link is in the bio. You guys could talk hip hop with us there. Thank you guys for watching again. And guys, I'll see you on the next one.